guess because I was touching on Leviticus 19. If you look at Leviticus 19, which I'm sure you guys did last Wednesday, yeah. As you go through, you'll see that a lot of them are laws that were already, they're just laws that are being reiterated. A lot of them, not all of them. A little bit of a let's back up just a little bit. So this is the time when children of Israel had left Egypt. You know what? Let me back up a little further. The reason that you're going to see these things, and a lot of people will look at these laws and say, "Hey, wait a minute. These things seem pretty harsh." It's almost like that old saying about a bully with a magnifying glass and an ant farm. Because when you look at these laws and you look at the way that they're written, you say, "Hey, wait a minute, man. The Most High is this is a little strange to say the least that you would require all of this." But what you got to remember is, when we break down everything, all these laws, everything that's written about the way that the Levitical priest was supposed to teach the people and guide the people, was for a super simple reason. And that reason was, the Most High is sovereign. The Most High's righteousness is sovereign. The Most High himself embodies righteousness. Those are his characteristics. Okay? He is, they talk about yin and yang. Duality. Coming together making two wholes. No, coming together making a whole. It's a lot. The Most High is on the right-hand side. And sin, we all know how sin got here. But sin is on the left-hand side. The reason all of this was being told was so that you don't make the mistake and offend the Most High. Now we know that the Most High says in the scriptures that what? Sin is what? Transgression of the law. What we're reading here are the various laws that the priest had to teach the people. Had to make sure that they understood this, because the penalties for breaking these laws were grave and serious. Why? Not only because you simply broke a law, but you offended the Most High's righteousness. And since that's his very essence, he has to react that way. He has to react righteously. So when we look at things like the flood, we look at let's go back as far as the plagues on Egypt. Now, a lot of people never really looked at why those particular plagues. As we know, those particular plagues were against particular gods that the Egyptians worshipped. And so the Most High was, he kind of had a sense of humor in a way. Because it's like, well, since you have the god of let's say darkness, or the god of light, or whatever god they had, he would bring a plague to directly challenge that god. In other words, if there's light and I bring darkness, and you say your god can dispel with my darkness and bring light back, well then you're going to have to do it. Prove it. So he would give that particular god a challenge. Same way, if you remember, he did with Abraham's father, Terah, because Terah was into that. As a matter of fact, he was into idolatry. He was the one making all the idols. And Most High moved Abraham to come at Terah based on that, but not in disrespect, but into letting him know you have to respect the one true God and not have all these other idols. But we'll get into that. So, as the children of Israel came out of Egypt, the Most High wanted to make sure that not only were they supposed to be his, because remember, he had already chosen him. He told them, look, I choose you to be my people, and I'll be your God. I'll be your power. But there were stipulations to that. And for anybody that would say that they thought that the Most High was being very, very wicked or cruel, that's like you being a parent and you have a child. You're going to love that child unconditionally. But there are conditions that child has to meet in order for you two to gel.
It's like having, as a parent, you put boundaries.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why in the scripture it talks about Judah mourning, the gate thereof languish. Now, it wasn't talking about a real gate, but it was talking about showing you what's the purpose of a gate. The purpose of the gate is to do two things. It's to protect the people inside from the people outside. That's what the gate is supposed to do. So it's talking about our leaders. And when our leaders were supposed to be able to set the boundaries of what we can and can't do to not offend the Most High. When those leaders are bought off or weak or non-believing or whatever the case may be, then the people suffer because that allows evil to get inside to the house. So it's very important. Now, we will go through all of these laws and it'd be like, it's so repetitious and like, seriously? But you got to remember what you're doing. If you offend the most holy power, then because you offended him with your sin, he has to now righteously react. And that reaction comes in the form of wrath.
I have a question. So,
Shoot.
with the repetition, I kind of concluded that with the repetition, things are repeated and laws are repeated because are we like hard-headed, stiff-necked? Is that why most are repeats?
That's definitely part of it.
Okay.
That's definitely part of it. I mean, think about it. What year are we in now? Are we listening? We're still not listening.
That's true.
We're still not listening. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years, meaning thousands and thousands and thousands upon thousands of times saying it. And we're still not listening. Now, granted, you can feel that there's a great awakening happening, but it's not, speaking as a fool, it's not to that level where it needs to be in order for things to change overnight. So yeah, things are repeated because you have to repeat. It's like a child. You have to repeat things to a child. Regardless of how many times they get it, you still have to do it. Because like you tell a child not to do something, and that child does it, you got to spank that child. Now that spanking comes in two forms. One, you're angry that they disobeyed you, and two, you're afraid for what could happen to them if they don't listen to you. Don't touch the stove. You could get hurt, seriously hurt. I'm angry that you disobeyed me, but I'm more upset because you would get hurt, and I'm really upset at the fact that you can't understand why I'm telling you not to do this. And the only way for you to understand is to get burned. But that's going above and beyond. You don't want that. You want to try to keep that from them. That's why in the book of Psalms, 23rd chapter, it says, there's a verse that talks about thy rod and thy staff shall comfort me. Now when a shepherd goes out with the sheep, you'll see two things with that shepherd. You'll see that long staff, and then you'll see a shorter stick, which is the rod. The rod is there to keep the sheep in line, and also to protect the sheep from other animals that may want to come and eat the sheep. That staff is there because if a sheep is lost, the one thing they do recognize is that staff that the shepherd carries. And they can look up and see that staff and know which direction to go, just based on that alone. That's why Yahushua says, I'm the shepherd of the sheep and they know my voice. Paraphrasing, of course. So these laws have to be repeated, because not only were they to be repeated because we're hard-headed and stiff-necked, but they were also to be repeated because they were different time periods. They were different time periods. Like the people who broke the law, and because of that, the other people had to wander in the desert for 40 years. Those things had to still be repeated. So I believe Kazak stopped off at 10. So, and also too, these are laws that when you follow them, they bring about a sense of freedom. I'll explain. In order to have it, for you to have a kingdom, right? If you have a kingdom, in order for it to be a kingdom, you need two things. You need people, and you need a king. And that king has to create laws that are just and cover every single area of his kingdom. That's not an easy task, because as you know, not everybody in the kingdom is the same. So that law has to cover each and every single thing that could possibly come up. The Bible does it splendidly. It covers everything. There's not one question you can ask that there's not an answer for in the Bible. You may not understand the answer. Your interpretation of it might not be correct, but there is an answer. Something as trivial as what you might think is trivial as leprosy. I got to be honest, when I first started reading it, I started going through the cleansing process that the priest had to go through in order to declare someone clean. And as I kept reading, when I first started off, when I kept reading, I was like, oh, somebody hit me in the head with a hammer. Like, this is just going on and on and on and on and on. But it was for a reason. Because we can definitely see the correlation between what the priest had to do to declare people lepers and what's happening now. Because the one thing you had was a clean leper and a dirty leper. And you didn't want to kill a leper mistakenly because you didn't understand if it was clean or unclean. So there had to be certain guidelines set forth so that the people would know. Because remember also, that's another thing I was talking about, where the king has to think of every single law to affect every single person. Because if you're a leper, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be on the outside. Because remember, lepers had to stay outside of the camp. You couldn't come in there until what? When you were declared clean by the priest. And so since the priests were in charge of doing these things, all that stuff had to be written down, because you're not going to be a priest forever. You're going to die. So that you had to teach the priest coming up under you. So all these things had to be written down. I said that to show that every single law in here is super important. So these laws that we're going through now, these things that we're going through now, gives you a sense of freedom, because if these laws are followed, then that brings order. And order brings peace and freedom. Take, for instance, the case of my house. If you live next to me and I have certain things that I don't like, you and I sit down, I find out things that you don't like. I don't like you parking your car on my side of the grass. I don't like you leaving your garbage out in the sun for it to smell bad. These things cause peace if you don't do them. And if I don't do them. Why? Because I'm not offending you and you're not offending me. You follow all the rules. I follow all the rules. That's what you call a community. Why? Because we commune in peace. The freedom comes in because if we're all communing in peace, I can leave my house and go on vacation and not worrying about somebody breaking into it. So I got the freedom to travel and enjoy my life. Because I know that the community respects and loves each other. Same thing with the Most High. Same thing with the Most High. It was out of respect, love, and it was a warning. It's a warning. because he has to react. Now, he chooses how he reacts, but it's always just. When a baby dies, it's just. It's hard for us to understand because we're not on the spiritual plane in order to do that. But it's always just. Most High is infallible. Your understanding of him might be fallible. So you may not understand, well, why should a baby die?
A lot of people, like, whenever you talk to them about the Most High, they always bring up that argument. Like, why do babies or little girls or little boys die from a drive-by and a bullet pass through the wall and kill them? But you explain to them that Job 4:7, you know, nobody that dies is innocent. But the other spectrum, like, sometimes he just takes people to be taken because he foresees the horror ahead. But they always say, well, how do you know which is which? So what do you say when they say that?
Salak King, what was your question again? Because
sometimes you have people that say, well, why would God allow a child to die by a drive-by in their house? And you tell them, like Job 4:7.
Yeah.
You tell them Job 4:7, the fact that nobody dies innocent, and when as a righteous ever been cut off. And at the other spectrum, sometimes the Most High would take a life, whether young or old, because he foresees the impending doom later on that will come on that person.
Well, that's exactly what I would tell them.
But they will always tell you, but which is which? How would you know which is which? And you tell them that we don't know.
You really don't. You really don't. But here's what's more important. The Most High knows. And that really should be enough. I mean, if you look at it, the scriptures don't lie. Nobody's innocent. The very fact of the matter is, the scripture says that we've all sinned and come short of the glory of the Most High. And even the ones that are walking the way they're supposed to walk. He says, even the most righteous among you, he says, a filthy rag. Now, I don't want to make disparaging remarks about it, but I'm showing you that we may never know why that baby died. We don't. But it definitely is one of the two things. Either, it could be quite a few things. I really don't like to go into that because, we could be talking about a past life thing. We could be talking about that. We could be talking about, preventing certain things in the future. You just will never know. You just will never know. You just will never know. But the Most High knows. And that's the reason why, we gotta, that's why you always gotta be grateful, man. You always gotta thank the Most High. You always gotta continue in prayer. A lot of us, we lack in doing those things. And it's really, believe it or not, that's really an offense to the Most High too. You know what I'm saying? When you fail to show even the littlest gratitude. And I don't mean the gratitude in the sense of, well, you gave me clean air, so, thanks, I appreciate it. Think about that. He gave you clean air. I think a lot of times we forget because we never run into the as opposed to, like I like to say. There's a lot of as opposed to that we don't run into. Like, we may not thank the Most High for life, but you should. As opposed to the baby that just died. We just talked about. So when you look at it on those scales, yeah, man, you got to be thankful.
Because you're always looking at the fact that we got potholes or dark spots in our own grass. We're always thinking that the grass over there is better.
Well, they used to have an old saying, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, if you water your own grass, it'll be just as green. I think that's like a anti-adultery scripture, kind of saying. It kind of sound like that, which is good. before that. Anyway, so yeah, so we definitely should be grateful. So these laws are, you're going to hear them so many times. You may hear them in different instances, but then as the stories go on, you'll see where they apply to every single situation that our people faced and what we face today. So let's go back to Leviticus chapter 19. I'm going to pick one out just before we go, because I know he stopped at 10. I'm going to continue from 10 on, but I want to pick one out. You know what? I'm not going to pick one out. Let's just go down to 10. So Leviticus chapter 19, verse 10. And it reads, "And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am the Lord your power." Pretty self-explanatory. However, I'll go into it. Again, as you remember, I said, a king's job is to rule the subjects in his kingdom with fairness, with love, and with sternness, with compassion. And all these things make up a good king. That's why David, if you look at David, what kind of king David was, David had it all. David had it all. David was merciful, but David would get at you. David would get at you. I think one of the coldest things he ever did was, you remember when the dude came back and told him that Saul had died, King Saul had died? And he asked him, "Hey, how did he die?" And he told him, he said, "Look, man, you know, he was wounded, and he said he didn't want to fall into the hands of the enemy or whatever, so he told me to fall on him."
Like to slay him?
Yeah, to slay him. And so he said, "So I did. And I alone escaped and came back. And I told the king, I came to tell the king." And David said, "Yeah, I feel you on that, man. I feel how you did that. I appreciate that. However,
how could you lift your hand?
How was you not afraid to lift your hand against the Most High's anointed?" And he told one of his people to kill the dude. That was the coldest thing ever. I said to myself, man, if I ever became a killer, that's the whole thing I'm going to say. I'm going to say that to everybody I get ready to kill. Even if it didn't apply. How were you not afraid to stretch forth your hand against the Most High's anointed? Sir, all I said was there's no toilet paper. Oh, you know, that type of thing. I'm going to say it everywhere I go. But no, but a king had to have that. That was part of it. So a king has to rule like that. So when he talks about, in the 10th verse, when it says, it's like the wind blew my page. Let me put when it talks about, "Thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and the stranger, I am the Lord your power." That was looking out for the people who were poor. Remember when Christ told them after the woman did what she did? Christ said, "Man, you won't have the poor with you always. Me, you're not gonna have." So we've had poor people from the time began. Now it didn't always, it wasn't always like that. But when sin entered into the world and these things happened, the people decided that they wanted to do for themselves and not rely on the Most High. And the Most High said, "Okay, here we go." But in the Most High being the king and the ruler and the Lord over us, he made sure that there were provisions set aside for the poor so that things were even. You can't have everybody rich. What's the point in that? So there were poor people, and the Most High in his compassion said, "Look, if I blessed you, the way you can bless somebody else is to, when you do reap your harvest, leave the corners, man." And that was a law, as you see here. that the people could come, the poor people could come, and they could eat as well. And those people would be definitely be grateful to the Most High for that. But also, the Most High was showing us how we're supposed to be compassionate. And it was talking about the stranger. It was talking about, because not all of us were together. Not all of our tribes were together. So when you got another person that came from that wasn't raised in your area, but of your kinsmen, they were allowed to come and glean in your fields. And it was, like I said, it was teaching you to be compassionate towards the people, towards your brother and your sister, because the Most High showed you compassion. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of these laws were geared also toward bringing that spirit out. That's why when it talks about, when you go into Ephesians or whatever, it talks about the fruits of the Spirit. All of that stuff is just reiterating or teaching you how to walk according to what these laws were saying. A lot of people would say now that, because there's this big thing about we don't have to keep the laws anymore, and all we have to do is look to Christ, so-called Christ as they call him. And they use Paul as the yardstick. They clearly didn't understand what Paul was trying to say. All these laws, when you read them, apply to everything that was going on during that so-called New Testament period. Think about it. Yahushua talked about compassion, showing compassion. What's more compassionate than when you reap you plow your field and you plant your plants and you start to reap your harvest and you leave for the poor, something you ain't have to do, but you felt compassion for people who don't have as much as you, and you wanted to make sure that everybody eat because you love and obey the Most High, which is to have love for your brother and sister. How compassionate is that? So as you see, everything that that Yahushua said and walked and lived was based on these words here, based on all these laws. Nobody can say different. That's why he said in Matthew, think not that I've come to destroy the law. So that's what that was talking about. Verse 11, you shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another. Remember when I told you about the community that commune together in love. If I love you, I'm not going to steal from you. If I love you, I'm not going to lie to you. If I love you, I'm not going to deal falsely with you. Why? Because the love that I have for you was being taught and manifested to me from the Most High. That's why he says, if you love me, keep my commandments. That's what that's as simple as it is. You'll have people that's gonna come around here and they're gonna be like super breakdown man and they're gonna be levitating and you know what I mean? Like, honestly, it really boils down to one simple thing. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you love the Most High, how can you not love the Most High's creation? That's why Yahushua said what? How can you say you love me, but that you never seen, but don't love the person that you see, your brother who you see every day? It's impossible. It's impossible. So in keeping these laws, you're showing your love not only for the Most High, but for your brother who was what? Created in the image and likeness of the Most High. That's why the disciples couldn't understand when Yahushua told me, he said, look, man, when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was sick, you took care of me. When I was in prison, you came to see me. And they was like, my man, hold on a second. When did we do all this? He said, if you did it to one of my brothers, you did it to me. So everybody think Yahushua came up with all this grand. No. He was just telling you what the Most High was saying from the beginning. The things that we couldn't understand. The things that we perverted. That's the reason the priesthood got like that. Because it was being perverted. So Yahushua had to come back. You can see who I talk to a lot. Yahushua had to come back and put it back on track. Not dismissing the laws, because these things still are relevant today. I don't have a vineyard, but if I come home, or I get paid, I just worked 5 days and I get paid. If I bought a meal for a dude that couldn't afford it, that's that same compassion. I mean, he ain't have to glean no field because I ain't got no field. But I showed my compassion to make sure he eat, because he represents the poor. So, yes, and that goes along with stealing, lying, and dealing falsely with one another. You can't commune like that. Because if you lie to me, then I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, then how can I rock with you? It's impossible. A relationship cannot be built on lies and deception. It can't. My mom used to always say, you got to watch a liar. She used to always say a liar is a thief and a thief is a liar. Now I thought she was like one of them old folks, but I thought about it, and that's absolutely true. Because if you steal something, you got to lie about it. So a liar is a thief, and a thief is a liar. And lies never stop until you get busted. Why? Because now I got to tell one more lie to cover up the lie I told you yesterday. And then I got to tell another lie to cover up the lie I'm telling today. We can't possibly remember all those lies. The truth, you never have to remember the truth. It's always there. It's what happened. It doesn't need defending. It's what happened. My phone is here, I just picked it up. That's the truth. I never have to remember what I did to my phone. I picked it up. I did it. That's my phone. Why isn't it there? Because I picked it up. Verse 12. And ye, we're in the book of Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 12. And ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of the Most High. I am the Lord thy power. Now, notice he didn't say, I wish you really wouldn't do that. He said, man, you shall not. As opposed to, you do it, and I got to do something nasty to you. Righteous, of course. But in the eyes of the carnal man, nasty. Think about this. How many times have we... And and it's funny because if you read the verse above us, where it says, thou shalt not steal, deal falsely, and this and that and the third, the verse under it kind of goes with that. Because what's the first thing a liar who stole something going to say? I swear to God, I ain't stealing. Is that right? So, that's just one instance. That's just one instance. A liar will say that. He will swear falsely. And then there are other people that'll swear falsely too. We're not supposed to be like those people. Now, how do you swear falsely against the Most High? Anybody? Give me some examples.
You know something is untrue and you swear that it is. Not with the name of the Lord.
That's one. That's true. That's true.
I would say more along the lines of you being a righteous person, or you doing something, you're swearing that you are a righteous person, yet
Yeah,
So
that yeah, that's true. That is true.
Like, if you so righteous, like, how can I don't want to, like, think about God or think about the power when you are saying that we have to follow the laws and follow the Most High, but you're not doing righteously either.
Right, right. What else?
In civil matters, like knowing that your ephod is unbalanced and you're doing business with it.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you use it. If let's say the churches, because that would, and I'm not saying the ones that are, look, you have. Let me just say this before I go on. You have a lot of good people in the churches, and I know the scripture says, "Call no man good," but I'm only using that word in the sense that for our understanding of what a good. Now we know what the Most High's understanding of good is, but if I said righteous, it'd be the same thing. Because who's righteous, honestly? So it would kind of be the same thing. It would equate to the same thing. So I'll use a layman's word and just say good. You got a lot of good people in the churches. Obviously, you got a lot of false people in churches that do things, that say things, and that's a good example of swearing falsely by the Most High's name. But a lot of people in those churches really love the Most High. They really do. I've seen this. You ain't gonna hear a lot of Israelites say this, but I'm not a lot of Israelites. I don't give a damn. I say what I want. And I've met a lot of people who got better spirits than some of the brothers and sisters that I roll with. In Israel, I mean, not necessarily in my camp. We family. I love the brothers and sisters in my camp. But they have better spirits. So they just don't have the understanding. Like the scripture says, they got the zeal, but they just don't have the understanding. And it's strange because the yin and yang of that is, we look at Israel now, we got the understanding. A lot of us ain't got the spirit though. It just ain't there. For whatever reason, it just ain't there. Can you imagine if they got what we have and we got what they have? You'd see how we shine probably tomorrow. So anyway, so I say that so that we're not too hard on our brothers and sisters in those churches. Our job is to bring them out of that, to show them that although you love the Most High, there's a way you have to do it. He commands you to do it a certain way, and if you follow those steps, you're good to go. So yeah, you're not supposed to swear falsely by the Most High's name. And you're not supposed to
I have a question.
Shoot.
Like how I don't know if they still do this in court, but like in certain courts they like make you put your hand on the Bible.
That's one of them. That's one of it. Yeah.
Okay,
Matter of fact, that's probably the best example of that. I'm glad I thought of it. That's the best example of that. That's definitely swearing falsely about it. How do we know that? Because if you swear by the Most High's name, let's just say you're allowed to. You swear by the Most High's name, but you don't judge according to this, then you swear falsely. If you don't look at a man's crime or a situation and judge him out of this after you swore on it, that's wicked as hell. That's wicked as hell.
So the court system is a wicked system.
Oh, absolutely. 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 And the funny thing is, it was founded on the Mosaic Law. Everybody knows that. But they don't follow it, not one bit. You are supposed to, if you're using this, you are indebted to do the whole law like the scripture says. Your judgment has to come from this. Your judgment has to come from this. When Yahushua was in the city, and they brought, I'm going to touch on this briefly, they brought the woman out to him. And they said she committed adultery. And they wanted to stone her. They wanted Yahushua to stone her too. But he didn't. Who can tell me why he didn't stone her?
If not
Because they only brought one of the two parties that are implicated in that adulterous action.
And what did he say to her though after that?
As I recall, let he that is without sin cast the first stone.
He said that to them. What did he say to her after?
I don't remember.
he said sin no more.
So she in fact did commit adultery. But because their judgment didn't come from this, he wasn't going to condemn her. He certainly had the power to condemn her, but he showed her compassion. But for them, it was like, hey, wait a minute. I get it that she did what she did. You guys should have showed her compassion anyway. But besides that, you ain't even do the right thing. You ain't even do the right thing. So even if I wanted to get at her, I'm not. It ain't here. You didn't do. You know what's in here. You read it. You teachers of the law. So how you didn't? You know what I mean?
In dealing with something like that, or anything in that matter, like today, how would you decipher whether to give compassion or whether to like say, okay, you know, I'm not gonna either deal with this person, or I wouldn't say like us judging people. I don't know, but like if somebody steals from you, how would you decipher whether to say, okay, I'll just let it rock, rather than saying like, okay, well, you know, I'll deal with you in a way where now you have to pay me back or do something like that.
Well, here's the thing. If as the law tells us, if you steal from a man, you got to pay that man back, right? So you would be perfectly within your right, but here's where you would be wrong by dealing with it yourself. You would have to do exactly what the words say, and bring that man before the judgment seat, which is this Bible. You got to bring him before this. This got to be read out to him. Once you do it along those lines, you're completely justified. That's the way to do it. Now, you steal from me, I'm not going to break it, and I broke into your house and stole my stuff back, I'd still be wrong. I'd still be wrong. Why? Because I didn't go according to this. This would have given me the reparations. This would have gotten my stuff back for me the right way. Because along with him, you know, this person who stole from me having to return my stuff, it also explains what happens if you don't return it. So either way, I was going to get my justice. So the thing is, we can't take it upon ourselves to deal with it. That was a big problem with why we went off in the first place. Because instead of going according to what the law said, we decided to handle it ourselves, or as the other nations were doing things. And we see how well that turned out. So yeah, as long as you went according to the law and brought that person, you know, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
I just wanted to let me back on that as far as with each other. So I guess everything is in accordance to how we deal with each other as far as money, food, stealing, things of that nature, things like that. He's a power of relationships. So it's just all in here as far as how we deal with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you read through the scripture, especially in what they call the Old Testament, he's so hurt and he's lamented over his relationship with us. That's a big thing with the Most High. So yeah, he definitely is a power of relationships. And relationship, a relationship that's built on this word, even if it gets crazy, it can't ever go wrong. It can't ever go wrong. And the only time it goes wrong is when we step away from this. Because, again, going back to Yahushua and that woman, they had her dead to rights. They had her. But he showed her compassion. He showed her compassion. So, but that's a good one, sis, with the swearing on the Bible. That's perfect. That's perfect. Oh man, I don't know how many more of these good ones I can come up with, but all right. So let's go. Where we at? 13. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor. We're in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 13. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. Now, here's a killer right here. This one is crazy. This is where when you look at a lot of these scriptures, this is where it's imperative that you do a lot of studying. Because believe it or not, you got to have wisdom. You got to use wisdom to not only decipher a lot of these things, but to kind of apply it, especially in modern day living. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, you look at these day laborers. You look at these day laborers that sit outside on the sidewalk all day. I forget what the scripture is, but there's a scripture that gives that parable about the laborers coming in at different times but receiving the same amount, and then they were. I gotta find that. But the Most High talks about not defrauding your neighbor. Again, like you said, sis, the Most High is a power of relationships, and in order for us to really benefit from the Most High's love and wisdom and caring, and we gotta form relationships first with Him, and then with us amongst each other. Yahushua was a big proponent of that. Relationships. He was big on that. Because he understood. There's a saying, I'm sure it didn't come from the scripture, but I've heard it for a long time, where it says, no man is an island. And that plays prominently in our lives if we think about it. Besides, that can cause contention and ill feelings toward one another if you try to defraud somebody. And what would be your reasoning for defrauding somebody? Because you look at this place now. You look at the other nations. They defraud us all the time. All the time. We get a lot of our people that say, yeah, we built this country. If you think about it, yeah, we did. Brick by brick. People say, nah, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Even if you had the slave master come up with the plan, the rich slave master, was he or his family members going to put the brick on top of the brick? On top of the brick? Was he going to dig the trenches? Was he going to carry the bricks and the mortar and the cement? Was he going to do all that? No. Our people built this. They signed over 100 treaties with so-called Native American Indians and defrauded them out of every single one. Every single thing. They worked us to death. Slavery. Defrauded us of our wages. Didn't it just say that the wages of him that is hired? Were we hired? No. So to them it's not defrauded because we weren't hired. Most High sees all though.
Yeah, just to add on to what you're saying as well. Can I get a script?
Cut.
This is the book of James, the 5th chapter, and the 4th verse. Like it says, we've been referring to a day laborer. How we work here in America, we're supposed to get paid once we're done with our job.
Absolutely.
But this is one of the commandments that the so-called white man in America that he breaks. All right. But James 5 and 4 says this: Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of the Shabbat.
See that? See that? That was just reiterating what was said here in Leviticus about defrauding your neighbor, about the wages of him being hired, not abiding with you all night. But how do they defraud us of our wages? Here's what they do: they make you work the whole week, and then they got this thing called a check in the hole, where you got to work a whole. If you get paid every week, you got to work 1 week for free. Then you work the next week. You'll get that money, and then they take taxes out of it.
Before you see it.
Son, how you even do that? I tell you how you do that. Because you're the wicked devil. That's why you're going to be destroyed.
God.
That's why you're going to be destroyed. I mean, I don't usually get on the devil tip because I know who you are. You always been that way. You're going to be that way. Most High going to deal with you, and He's going to use us to do it. That's the bottom line. So I ain't got to say no more on it. I'm not going to ever harp on it all the time. When you see me, you don't see me harping on that. It's an old saying. You're going to get yours. And that's about the bottom line for me. So I don't worry about it. But yeah, that's defrauding your neighbor. That's wicked. That's wicked as hell, man. And for you to for you to be out there working and slaving all day, and then at the end of the day for this man to tell you, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. You don't know how you get in there. Suppose you ain't got the money to get there. Suppose you using your last to get there today. That's why, believe it or not, that's why that law was put there. You might have nothing in your refrigerator for your family. You used your last to get to a job site, counting on that money. Most High know that. That's why He said, yo, the wages shouldn't stay with you all night. Pay that man. Pay that woman. They probably got kids. That also causes contention when you do that, because that also brings up hatred. That happened to our people. That happening to our people right now. This man would defraud our people, but we would get mad. In our ignorance, we would get mad at the Most High. How could He let this happen? What kind of God is that? Most High put the law there. It ain't like it's not there. You choose not to follow it. That's a different thing. But again, if you look at these were the laws that the priests were to guide the people according to. So again, they don't offend the righteousness of the Most High. So now it goes on to say, all right, so we're in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 13. Is everybody clear on that? How wicked and sinful that is. And we're not supposed to deal like that with each other. And believe it or not, you're not supposed to deal like that in the world. It's not about who you're doing it to. It's about who you're representing. If you're walking after men, that's one thing. But if you're walking after the Most High, why would you want to defraud anybody? Because believe it or not, that's a slap in the face to the Most High. You're a liar. You're lying on the Most High. You're saying to the Most High, I got to defraud this person because I don't believe you're going to provide.
And then when you read the verse above it, the 12th verse, it talks about those swearing the Most High's name.
Cut.
Because then now you're making a contract. And back there, at that time period, our people were just being reintroduced to the name of the Most High.
Cut.
They didn't know him as Yahweh yet. They knew him as
El Shaddai.
El Shaddai.
Yeah, God of the field.
God of the field, or the mountain.
Right.
So now,
Cut.
here it is, the Most High's name being reintroduced to Israel. We're around the tabernacle. But then you have other Israelites that might take the Most High's name in vain and try to use his name in a false vow. Or the name of the Most High. So that's why the Heavenly Father said, don't take his name for granted like that.
Right.
And
Right.
making a vow or a promise.
Come. He talked strongly about that, especially vowing. That was a good one. I should have touched on that. I'm glad I thought of that too. I'm coming up with all these scriptures. It's crazy. It's crazy. Woo. So yeah, but that's a good point. So in representing the Most High and walking that straight and narrow path, you can't even desire to want to defraud anybody. The Most High gonna provide. The Most High gotta direct your steps.
Is that almost the same thing as coveting?
Yeah, right. Indirectly, because that falls to intention. You know what I mean? That falls to intent. Like, why are you defrauding this person? Is it because, say, this guy's got well, I mean, $10 is because you could defraud that person out of his $10 just out of sheer greed. It ain't even got to be like you coveting that $10. It just could be pure greed. I know usually when we talk about coveting, we talk about spouses, but that really is not going to apply here. I mean, when you can use it for that. You can defraud somebody to covet what they have. You definitely can.
But that's the cause and effect, not the actual act.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all intertwines, believe it or not. It just depends on the circumstance. It just depends on the circumstance. But yeah, that definitely is possible. You can definitely do that. Let's move on. 14. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shalt fear thy power. I am the Lord. See, now he even goes. This is a little crazy. He even goes in. He covers everything. Remember what I told you earlier? The Most High covers everything. Because you got to ask you, sometimes in order to understand what he's talking about, you got to come from the opposite direction. That verse 14 says, "Thou shalt not curse the deaf." Who would curse the deaf? And what kind of curse is he talking about? Like, I never woke up and said, you know what? I think I'm gonna curse the deaf today. I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm gonna run some errands later, curse the deaf. Why would he say that? And then, nor put a stumbling block before the blind.
I guess cursing the dead.
Well, before you start, let's think of where those acts would put you. In other words, first and foremost, literally speaking, if you think about those acts literally happening, that's super wicked. Especially to putting the stumbling block before the blind. You know he's blind. So you got to ask yourself the question, is this a twofold thing? Because one is a given. Well, if you put a stumbling block before a blind, you know he's going to fall. Because he's blind, he can't see. Both of these are acts of cruelty in a carnal sense. But what about in the spiritual sense? So name some reasons why you would curse to death. Or how can you curse to death? Because think about it. Can the deaf hear you?
No, they can't.
Yeah. So what does it mean, curse to death?
When you're cursing a deaf person, not only are you bringing ill will to that person can't even hear what you're saying. And by definition, he can't even defend himself.
Well, true, but even more serious than that. Nah, that's not like touch on that. That's too much. More examples of how you can curse to death. Because I mean, it sounds like an impossible thing. Like, wait a minute, man, how can you can curse him, but he ain't gonna hear you. So what do we mean by curse to death? And how can you curse to death? What do you mean by putting a stumbling block before the blind?
That's a good question, because you're putting the two together, cursing the blind, or stumbling block for the blind, and cursing the dead. So I'm trying to look at the correlation of those two scenarios. And then also with the question that you proposed as far as how can you curse the dead? Curse the dead.
All right. Well, both of them are what you would call what's the word I'm looking for?
Disabilities.
Disabilities.
My bad. I thought it was something else.
In a carnal sense, they're both disabilities. So what do we take from that? Can we use that information?
Yes.
How?
Well, I think basically what that is saying is that you're making light or fun of people who are weaker, a weaker vessel than you, and we should be helping the weaker vessels, or the less of us.
You in the ballpark. You in the ballpark.
I was just thinking, like, if you don't use it literally, even if someone, like, let's say spiritually, someone can't see, or like they don't understand certain things.
Warmer.
Why would
You're getting there.
Warmer. I'm getting warmer.
You're getting there.
like you putting a stumbling block, or you making it more difficult for them to, I guess, kind of awaken spiritually, or like if you're cursing, you say cursing to death, like if someone isn't adhering to something or understanding something, and instead of you being compassionate and trying to work with that person, you're kind of like, oh, forget it, like I'm not helping you or whatever it is.
Give that lady a hand, man. Give that lady a hand. You've got to. You've got to. I could have said it better myself, although I actually did say it. But yeah, that's exactly what it's talking about. Because if you look at it literally, you can't do those two things. It would make no sense. Cursing to death, he can't hear. Put a stumbling block in front of the blind, he can't see anyway. So how would he know it's even there?
So it's like a metaphor.
But when one person can't see and the other one can't hear, isn't that there's some type of way one person can get wisdom and the other one can get understanding from the scriptures?
It's always got to be one, right? It's always got to be one.
Why?
Yeah, we rolling along, just beautiful. And then this one.
This guy.
I mean, you're right. But I like her answer, man.
Okay, that's fine.
But yeah, but that's because you remember Yahushua was talking about, how can the blind lead the blind? They both fall into the ditch. But that's what it was talking about in a nutshell. That those things are offensive to the Most High. Watch this one.
Con. And just to land back what the brother saying, is also talking about your brother and sister behind their back. You saying they not there to defend themselves. You saying something, putting them in a position where you say you see them at a crime, but they're not there to defend themselves. So you're talking about someone that can't hear neither say or see. And then on top of that, you can be giving someone bad counsel. Right?
That one's good too.
You can be giving someone bad counsel. Now here you have a weaker person. You might know what's going on. For the system says, well look, the judicial system needs money. But you have lawyers that give bad counsel to our people to keep the prison system and the jail system filled, because at the end of the day, the court's nothing but a bank. Right? So a lot of people give our brothers and sisters bad counsel because they don't know the system. They don't know the judicial laws. They don't know how the system works. But for every inmate, for every individual that comes into lockdown, that's revenue that the government can petition to the state, and they get that money allocated back to them. It keeps their system going, people get paid. Right? So that's another example of putting a stumbling block before the blind. Because our people, to really be that wicked to put a stone in front of a person that's blind, I mean, especially at this time period, it goes a little more deeper than that, like the brother Ahrayah was saying.
Cut. I mean, we got stumbling blocks in front of us. When you start putting up Christianity, when you start putting up Islam, when you start putting up all this, get that bag, these are all stumbling blocks, man, before the blind. Those of us who who understand this word and live by this word, we're supposed to be the ones that can see. And we're supposed to be able to sidestep these stumbling blocks and teach others to do so in love and in the community. So you hit that nail round the head. All right, so was everybody clear? Or did we spend a little bit more time on that? Was good? Good to walk? All right. Let's go to Leviticus 19, chapter 19 and verse 14. Verse 15. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. But in righteousness thou shalt judge thy neighbor. And we see this all too often. I was listening to well, we all know that the situation that's going down with the Black Lives Movement and all this other stuff. Well, it's interesting that we look at all the things that are happening now, and even as the scripture alludes to, not only here but in other places where it alludes to, kind of like no one cares about what the poor says. They pay attention to what the rich say. Well, you figure, well, why? Well, the rich got money. You know what I mean? They have influence. They have means. Whatever it is. They're people that are held in high regard. Whereas no one listens to the poor. It's like, what could you possibly... Like, there's a lot of rap records and a lot of people saying, well, look, man, I forget what the saying was. Something about, if you want to be rich, don't hang around broke people, because what could broke people teach you? or some to that effect, some kind of stupid madness like that. In a sense, you can kind of give credence to that, because if I just made $1 million and you want to make $1 million, and this dude here don't, just for the sake of argument, don't got nothing, you could technically want to come to me, because if you want to make $1 million and I just did it, I can tell you how to do it. But here's the conundrum. I don't mean that he don't know how to do it. He might not have the opportunity to do it. But then you can flip that again. He could make his own opportunity. We can go back and forth all night long. But the Most High was talking about in this instance, the way that you show love is to be impartial. You got to go according to this word in order to judge righteously. That's what the Most High is looking for. One way to the left, too much to the left, it's unrighteous. One way to the right is over righteous. It's like, really, you ain't had to do all that. We as Hebrews, man, we gotta, especially with each other, because that's not being taught now. We always gotta deal with each other righteously and impartially, man. I can't consider the dude with from head to toe Gucci and a Lamborghini as a better person than the dude that's walking around with, whatever the Payless shoes or whatever the case is. You can't possibly know. That person might have a much better spirit than that person that's got all of that. Because that person that got all of that might say, of my own accord that I get all this. Ain't nobody help me, ain't nobody do it for me. So he might have the nasty attitude. That might be the one that defraud you. That might be the one to lie to you. That might be the one that if you work for him, he hold your wages. When Yahushua told the people, he said, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get into heaven. Most High is not against money. He ain't against riches. Let's just put that out there now. I know the prosperity preachers like this. Most High not against that. That's why he tells us in the scripture, so look, it's easy for the Most High to make a poor man rich. It's easy. That's nothing. Yahushua himself said, look, man, ask whatsoever you desire. He ain't said what you need. He said what you desire. But here, in this law, it was showing us, hey, look, man, in order for you to be righteous and make sure that everything is fair, you got to deal impartially. When you bring down judgment, you got to bring... How many times a poor man go to court and innocent, but because he ain't got the money for a good lawyer, he got to serve time? Whereas the rich man goes to court, he might have done it, but because he's a man of stature, he's automatically believed to be innocent. And he gets off. That's unrighteous, man. That's unrighteous.
That same individual that has that prestigious title, like you were saying, we can't be impartial. We have to know the cause.
Absolutely.
The cause, why that person did it, whether he is a judge in Israel, whether he's a prince of one of the tribes of each tribe.
Absolutely.
Whether he's a Levite, whether he's a treasurer, if he committed a crime or did something where judgment was to be put upon him, we can't look at his position and be like, well, he's okay, brother, because he comes every Shabbat for the shoe shine, as opposed to the other brother or sister that may not have that same sort of financial backing and has a name within a prestigious group. That's why the Most High says, we can't look at the righteous or the poor and be impartial. Everything has to be to the letter of the law.
That's Tawab. And also, you got to remember that now all of us are supposed to do that, but a lot of these he's talking to the priests, because remember the priests were the one that was sitting in judgment. They had to decipher what was going on and settle matters between all the tribes, all the people, all the children of Israel. So it was left up to them to bring judgment on a certain situation. So they had to be impartial. They had to use righteous judgment and not look at, because think about it, can a poor person sit in judgment and judge a rich person? Now, before you answer, yes, technically, but when you look at the way things were situated and the way the council was formed, you know, he probably wouldn't be on the council anyway. I mean, and I'm not saying that to be facetious, but this was really talking to the priests and the people who were in positions to make those type of judgments, which were who? The priests. Nobody else. So it was really important that everybody get a fair shake with the Most High. And it was not about your outer, it was about your inner. You know what I'm saying? It was about your inner. So I can't look at you and because you got on the best of things, I can't automatically say, yo, this man is a good dude, so let's just, or look at this poor man and say, oh man, you ain't worth nothing because look at you, you ain't about nothing. I can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. Whatever you do, it's got to be according to this law and the love that the Most High was showing us in it in order to judge the people righteously. And again, it goes back to community, the community.
Is this, I don't know the actual verse or the actual chapter book, but is this where no respect of persons? Is this?
Yeah, absolutely, 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 absolutely. You can't look. How can you possibly judge righteously if you got respect of persons? How it's impossible. See, these laws, when you look at the way these laws are written, it's impossible to please the Most High and go against them. They don't work if you go against them. They just don't work. They don't work. And they're detrimental to you. If you honor a rich man just because of the fact that he's rich, and you take his side over a poor person, and that poor person was innocent, you think the Most High gonna be happy or not? And as we've been talking for most of the night, that's the last thing you want to do is make him unhappy and offend his righteousness. That's his very nature. You leave him no choice but to act on that. So, believe it or not, that is such a serious, serious thing. We really, really got to look at that. You got to accept. That's why the scripture tells us that you got to trust. To know a spirit, you got to try a spirit. We're all spiritual beings in a fleshly body. So I'm supposed to, as a righteous judge, I'm supposed to look past you being rich or look past you being poor. That poor person could be a nasty bastard too. You can be an evil dude and be poor. You can be a liar. You could be a defrauder. You could be an adulterer. You could be all of these things. And still have the appearance of a poor person. I'm not supposed to be moved by that as well. It's about doing righteous judgment in all things. And that's what we all got to strive to do. I mean, we can't live together in harmony without that. You just can't. Without any of these things happening. Any of these things. Again, like I said, if you don't apply this law the way it was written, and you go contrary to that, it just doesn't work. And it causes a chain of events that leads us into captivities like this. You don't got to take my word for it. Look at all the captivities we've been in. Because of disobeying things like this. Because of going contrary to things like this. For knowing it, but not doing it. That's why Yahushua was very, very wise when he was telling the people. He said, look, man, you see these people? He was talking about the priests. He says, do as they say, but don't do as they do. They know the law.
They don't follow it.
But they ain't following it. They ain't doing it. And this was a big thing, man. Everybody's supposed to get a fair shake. And the Most High was also teaching you, like I said, to try the spirit, to look beyond what the carnal eyes are seeing. These weren't novice people that were going to sit there in judgment. These were people who were supposed to be, older, learned men that were supposed to sit in judgment. You don't look at no child to judge him. Although, strangely enough, a child is the best judge. Children don't care about none of that. If you a jerk off, a child gonna see that. I mean, you jerk off. You can be poor, you be rich, you jerk off, man.
Because as a kid, you see a poor man, he got, you played in the park.
That's why, when they was, that's one of the reasons why, when they were shooing the kids away, and Yahushua said, man, suffer little children to come unto me. Unless you become like one of them, you can't see the kingdom of heaven. These things, believe it or not, kids do these things. They do it instinctively. Because that, as a kid, believe it or not, especially a young child, that connection is still there. That spiritual connection is still there. Now, granted, we're born in sin and things of that nature. But it's all about that spiritual connection. And that's a true thing. That's why the Indians never wanted their, so-called Indians, they never wanted their hair cut. They did a study on that, but we'll get into that about that some other time. You probably know about the study, huh?
Oh no, I was just saying, like your hair being an antenna or something, a connection to.
Yeah, they exactly, and it was strange because they used to use Indian scouts, so-called Indian scouts. They were trackers, good trackers, and they did a I forget, I have it written somewhere, but they did this experiment where they cut the hair, and for some reason the Indians could no longer track the enemy. True story, but we'll get into it another time. Huh?
Samson? Something like,
well, yeah, he definitely had that with his hair. Yeah, he definitely had. I wonder why the Most High used his hair though. When you look at the source of the power. We'll get into that some other time. All right, so we're back in Leviticus 19 and let's move along quick now. 19 and 16. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. I don't know if we got to spend a whole lot of time on this one, but let's do it. Instead of, let's come at it from a different angle. Instead of saying how wicked being a talebearer is, let's look at the damage that it causes. I mean, that's not a simple thing. We all of us sitting here right now, probably have example after example after example of how talebearing either hurt us, hurt people we love, or how we may have been talebearers. I know I certainly was. I've definitely talebeared before. I don't even know if that's a word, talebeared, but it's mine tonight. The Most High deals with truth. Again, all these things are in his essence. That's his divinity. And being made in his image and likeness, we're supposed to have those same characteristics, those same qualities. And we're supposed to exhibit that wherever we go. With us now, like we have to do, like the scripture says, we have to learn to do well. We knew before. We have to come back into it now. That's why these laws, that's why the scripture, this is a living book, man, because these laws don't die. For all those people talking about you ain't got to keep the laws no more, they don't die. How can a law of don't be a talebearer die? I know niggas in the street that'll say that. Yo, man, don't do that. That ain't gonna never die. Now, most of the people that talk like that, they don't look at laws like this. They're coming from maybe the sacrificial law, maybe the law on, whatever else. They don't look at even these laws could never be done away with. I mean, who do you think made these up? You think some dude sat on the corner and made this up? This came from the Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. So by their logic, I could be a talebearer now, since the laws are done away with. I commit adultery now. Am I really committing adultery? If it's done away with? No. And then why shouldn't I do what I want to do? Ain't nobody gonna judge me. Well, yeah, how was y'all coming back for? To do what? To save us? From what? We ain't sinning. Laws are done away with. I just want to show you how foolish that is. That's a whole nother class. But yeah. So it says, thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. Now what is that talking about? Now, I'm not picking you. I'm tired of you giving me all these answers. Anybody else want to take a crack at it? I knew he was going to stand up. I knew he was going to give the answer.
Would you mind reading that verse again?
Okay. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord.
Alright, the going up and down as a talebearer, that's speaking ill or taking misinformation and using, soliciting it amongst the nation. Whether it's right or wrong, it can be something about someone's household or something that may have taken place.
That encompasses all of that.
Right.
That encompasses all of that. I mean, you breaking it down, but that encompasses all of that. But you're right. Absolutely right.
And stand against the blood of thy neighbor. That's what it says.
Cut.
Bearing false witness.
Elaborate some more. Because how do you stand against the blood of your neighbor? What's the blood of your neighbor? You know what I'm saying?
Well, obviously, you're dealing with judgment. Blood represents remission of sins.
I'm gonna eat a drink after this dude's explanation. Where am I? I just got lightheaded all of a sudden.
He's saying it's the blood. I'm assuming it has to deal with bearing false witness. Because if you bear false witness against your brother, it could be something that he may have not been guilty of doing. So you stand against the blood of thy neighbor. So you put him in a position where he's already in judgment without having proper counsel, without having proper representation, that's why it says in the scriptures, analyze. What's the proper word? But I misspoke me on this. You're
there because it does. You would have to if you in order for you to bear, like for instance, if I'm being accused of something, right, and you didn't see me do it, and the people that got me up there is saying, hey, you did this, and you didn't see that, but you come and give false testimony. You coming in, like the brother said, and bearing false witness. You know what they're gonna do to me. You know what the penalty is. Say the penalty was death. Now you come before the judgment and you standing before the blood of your neighbor, and yes, you bearing false witness. You didn't see it. You wasn't there.
Now, what if Karen does that? Like, Karen does that all the time and bears false witness to black men and black women, or so-called black men and so-called black women, all the time, and calls the police on our people.
Yeah.
You know?
Here's the thing with that. Although that's wicked as hell,
They're supposed to do that.
it's expected, and it's just still part of the curses. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a sucky thing. It is what it is, though. And these are the things that have to go on. Now, they talk about, remember the scripture says that a lot, like, now we know, a lot of times the scripture is specific about one thing, but it encompasses everything from that one thing. In other words, if there's, it'll talk about this candlestick or this menorah, but it'll encompass all 7 branches of it. So they have to be that way, because when you go back to the Jacob and the Esau, when you can go back as far as Cain and Abel. This is a spiritual thing. This is not, listen, all they're doing, this is not carnally. It's manifested itself in the carnal because we're physically dying, but this is a spiritual thing. This is a spiritual thing. And they're just being revealed right now. That's why Scripture says, about the son of perdition being revealed. We know that that's talking about certain things, but it encompasses all of this. All of this. And these are still part of the curses. But they're also, believe it or not, they're a blueprint for how we get out of here. What we got to do to get out of here. The time. All these things that are befalling us. So, in that case, they just being their evil, wicked self, doing that. And these are the things that we got to deal with, because they're meant to happen to us to either go one of 2 ways. To go away from the Most High, or to become closer to the Most High. To stay asleep and want to do things their way, or to wake up to this word and to realize that we need the Most High. We need to come back to our Father. We need to come back to our nationality. We need to come back to our history. It's meant to spark you. Because think about it. Like the scripture says, until we all come into the unity of faith. Now think about it. We're not getting out of here unless that happens. At least not in the way we think. And I dare the person to show me different. I see you, King. I got you. So, these things that are happening, all these killings, man, they're made to spark you. These things are sparking us, man. Because it's causing an awakening right now. People are stumbling, but they're starting to see the light. They're starting to see the light. Now, at every turn, Satan is there. At every level, he's the devil. So he's going to try to push it away from coming back to the Most High and push it to, we got to unify. We got to unify together. That's what he got in our head. The scripture says we got to, what? Till we come into the unity of the faith. What faith? This. We ain't getting out of here unless you come back to this. Now think about it. You done tried everything else. So Karen is just being Karen when she do that. When I see Karen do these things, I pray for Karen. I pray that the Most High deals with her. I pray that the Most. I'm not one of those people that pray. Hey, listen, Most High, open up her eyes so she can see who she's really doing. Oh, Most High, I don't know if you know this, but there's the Q6 coming around the corner right now. If she can just walk right into this.
Yes, good.
Not saying I want her to get hit, but I understand.
She gets it.
Yeah. These things happen. Slippery floor, Selena on Barnes, whatever. So it's just one of those things. But go ahead, King. I got you, man. I forgot your hand was up.
Oh no, I just wanted to just elaborate what you were speaking about as far as in Leviticus 19, where it says, "Say it's the blood of thy neighbor." You stand up and say it. You die. Would you mind getting Proverbs 24:11?
Okay.
And it could be looked at like this too, because we see this play out, especially on what's that crime channel? Is it True TV, I believe, or True TV, where situations where someone is in the vicinity of a crime, he gets picked up for something totally different, but the police now will coerce this individual to say, well, look, we need you to say that you saw this individual commit this crime, and we'll drop the charges, or we'll give you a lighter sentence. Right?
Right.
So now you're in a position where, because you want a lighter sentence, because you want to be free yourself, or you don't want the charges on you, you're willing to allow your brother to be put to death and be put in prison for the rest of his life. That's what it also refers to as far as standing against the blood of thy brother. We're supposed to deliver them out of situations like that. Get on Proverbs 24:11.
If thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death,
Right?
and those that are ready to be slain,
And those that are
Right.
going to be slain, read on.
if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not,
We don't know what's going on.
Right.
doth not he that pondereth the heart consider it?
There's not he that part of the heart consider, which is the Most High.
Right.
Because he knows the reins, the intents of the heart. Whether you have no information, little information,
Right.
or absolute truth
Right.
therein to that situation where a brother
Right.
is about to be put to death or slain for a crime
Well said.
he's innocent of.
Well said.
Read on.
And he that keepeth thy soul, doth not he know it?
Right.
And shall not he render to every man according to his works?
So the Most High doesn't have, he has judgment waiting for you. Because you didn't stand up for that brother's life and redeem him out of the situation that he was in. So judgment is going to be put upon you as well. That's why it says in Ezekiel, Son of man, I set you as a watchman over the house of Israel. If you don't give that brother or sister warning, and that brother or sister passes away, that person's blood is on your hands.
Right. Con. And that's the broader version of what it means to not to stand against the blood of your brother. Because if you for instance, if you're going on if that brother's on trial, like we were saying before, and you know, like if I didn't do something, you know the penalty is going to be death, and you have information that could save me, you're supposed to go and bring it to those that are holding me in judgment, because you know what the penalty is if they judge me falsely. That's death. So if you don't do that, then you standing against my blood, because you know that the penalty is death. So if you know something that could help a brother out, save a brother who is righteous, and he didn't do something, and you don't do it, then you standing against the blood of your brother.
I just noticed that, even last Wednesday, we kind of discussed that, everything is kind of connected. And I see, even we're talking about this, and this goes back to not dealing with how the Most High wants us to deal with the law. Because if we're saying, like, oh, like you gave the example of the cop saying, oh, I need you to say that you saw this. Not only are you doing that and disobeying that, but you're going into the court of law, dealing unjustly within the law, swearing on the Bible.
Right, swearing falsely by the Most High. Absolutely. It's all interconnected. It's all connected.
And that's how they get you to sin. And it's like, it breaks up this whole, I guess I would say, like, this is kind of like a circle. Once you kind of ruin that, then everything else just trickles down, and it's just
absolutely. Because you got to remember, there's somebody right now sitting in an office, or in a room, with idols all over the place, and sacrificing little kids over here in the corner, and he's sitting there scratching his head like, we've been trying to kill these niggas forever, and we cannot do it. It just seems like the more we kill them, the more they reproduce. Them some rabbit ass, you know what I mean? So, but then there's another person sitting on the other side of the room, and he says, Eureka, I got it. We don't gotta kill them off. We know that they're chosen. All we gotta do, separate them from the Most High. That's it. That's all we gotta do.
Make them add sin upon sin.
Yeah, let's separate them from the Most High. They'll sin. They'll tie the Most High's hands, if that was possible, which it is, by certain things you do, and thereby bring on their destruction, as we see back then till now. It's interesting to note, I'm going to leave the topic for a minute. It's interesting to note that when in the Garden of Eden, when Satan told Eve, he said, look, you're not going to die. Well, he don't want you to do that because he know that if you eat it, then you're going to be like him and you're going to know good and evil. This is that and third. And in that lie that he told her she wasn't going to die. Now, she did die. Now, obviously, when you look at it, she didn't die right away. She didn't die right away. So a lot of people would have you believe and trick you to say, well, he didn't lie to her. She didn't die. Yeah, but she did. And the reason he used those words was because he himself suffered the same death. What's the spiritual death? Being separated from the Most High. Being separated from that light, from the Most High's love. Did not Satan go through that? Did Lucifer become Satan? So he in fact knew what that death was. So he lied to her and tricked her into that spiritual death. So she in fact did die. Now later on, she did the physical one, because she was no longer that luminant being. All right, so I just thought to point that out. I mean, I ain't gonna get into that because then I got to get into, the celestial skin and all this other kind of stuff. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like a circle, and once you break that, then it trickles all down. Everything just trickles down. And so that's what they figured out, that look, we can't kill you physically, we'll kill you spiritually. That's why Yahweh Shah said, look, man, don't fear the person that can kill the body, but fear that can kill the body and then destroy the. You see what I'm saying? So it's a spiritual. This is all spiritual. It's all spiritual. And so that's what they've been doing, and that's why we're in the condition that we're in. Mosai realized that. You know what I'm saying? He realized that, and he loved us so much that he wanted to help us. But here's how he had to do it. He knew he couldn't come down and do it as himself, because what would he have been doing? He would have been doing something that is impossible for him to do. He would have broke his own law. if he came down? I'll explain quickly and then we'll move on. Most High set up these laws, and one of the laws he set up was he gave man dominion over the earth. Which means no entity other than flesh and blood has permission to operate on this earth. You don't believe me? Angels always came down as who? Always. They always appeared as men. Yahweh Shai came down as man. When Lucifer became Satan and they lost a certain power, what's the only way that they were able to operate on the earth after being thrown down?
I was joking.
No, yeah, but I'm looking for
I was joking.
the answer I'm looking for is
You're a little bit more different.
man. How do we know? When Yahweh Shai came and saw the demons, were they demons or were they demons talking through men? See, that's how you can tell. A demon has to
embody a human.
Exactly. That's how. Because what did they say to him? Did you come to torture us before the time? And then they asked him what? They said, "Yo, if you're gonna take us out, let us go into those pigs." See that? They need that. They can't. Nothing can operate on this plane in that form. You have to be in a flesh and blood form. Whole reason why Yahweh Shai was created, the whole reason, was so that the Most High would be able to operate on this plane without breaking his own law. I had a whole nother class on that. We'll talk about that some other time. But that's how you stand against the blood of your neighbor. Verse 17. So we're still in Leviticus 19, chapter 19, verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. That's self-explanatory too, but there's varying degrees of hate. I mean, it's all bad. It's all horrible. But there are varying degrees because there are different reasons and different intentions when it comes to that. I could hate you because you got a better beard than I do, which you don't, but I could. I could hate you because I don't like what you're wearing. But I really hate you if I don't admonish you to keep these laws. That's how you bring sin upon a person. Or that person brings sin upon himself. Because sin is what?
Transgression of the law.
Exactly. So to me, that's the greatest form of hate you could possibly have. I mean, what? Yeah. Well, I mean, what else? If the Most High says, "Thou shalt not steal," and I watch you steal this without telling you, "Hey, man, you ain't supposed to do that," that's hatred. I got hate for you, and because of me, sin just came upon you. Now, yeah, you did the act, but I could have prevented that by telling you, "Hey, look, man, the law says not to steal."
Now, what if you did that and they still stole?
Huh?
What if you did warn them and they still stole?
What? I mean, that's on him. That's completely on him. You know, because you wash your hands of the situation, but it is your duty to tell him. That's why, like the brother, like Kazat in the back said about, we was talking about the watchman. You know, where the Most High says in the scriptures, he says, "Look, man, you know, if the storm comes and the watchmen don't warn the people, and the people perish, then he gonna require the blood of the people at the watchman's hands. But now if the watchman tells them, hey, look, man, the storm's coming, and they say, yeah, whatever, and they die, then the watchman is cleared. That's on their hands. They gotta suffer that. Same thing, like on a bigger scale, the flood. Noah been telling them over 100 years before it happened. So when you don't admonish a brother, when you don't look out for a brother and warn him and admonish him to always do the righteous thing, you got hate in your heart for your brother. And he may not even know it. He may not even know it. Now, I'm walking down the street, I see you, get ready to steal something. I also see police looking at you from the corner. I don't tell you, I walk right past you. You steal it, police catch you, you go to jail. In jail, bad things happen, you die. But that's super hatred in your heart. Because you knew that they were there. And you didn't say nothing. Now, yeah, the chain of events started with him or with you. But if I knew and I didn't tell you, that's holding hatred in your heart, man.
I also believe that in that story that you just mentioned, not only that you saw the police officers, but he was doing something that was incorrect. He was doing something
absolutely.
wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that goes without saying. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why I said you should rebuke. You should in any wise rebuke your neighbor. And the scripture even gives the steps on how that's to be done. And steps on if they hear or forbear. Then the next step after that. And then after that. And then after that. Until it gets to that point. So you see the love of the Most High shines in everything because you even got steps where you can back up from and be like, all right, you can pull over. He give you many chances to pull over. Just in the law alone, the way he says to do it, he's giving you steps to pull back, pull over. So again, it says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. And that's why when you remember the scriptures, when it talks about if you got something against your brother, leave your gift at the altar. Go reconcile with your brother and come back and bring your gifts. Because believe it or not, you can hate your brother in your heart and still claim to be doing the Lord's work. Case in point. I could tell a brother I love him all day. We can hang out, we can hug, we can do things. But in my heart, in my mind, I hate this dude. I hate this dude. I hate what he stands for. I hate that he got a better wife than me. I hate that he dressed better than me. I hate that he's everything better than me. That's why Yahweh Shah said, they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Hate is a real strong thing, man. And it takes so many forms. But it all leads to the same place. If you don't admonish and rebuke a brother or a sister to do the right thing or rebuke them for doing the wrong thing, then you ain't got no love in your heart for them. The opposite of love is hate. It's really quite simple. And again, like you said, sis, you can see the connection above that. Because the only way that you would not come to a brother's aid in a courtroom if you knew that you had information that could save him was if you hated him. I mean, it goes hand in hand. We can go all the way back. It just goes hand in hand in hand. So we got to not do that. And not suffer sin upon him. Verse 17, the end of 17, and not suffer sin upon him. Because Now this brother sinned because you didn't admonish him or rebuke him. He got to handle that. But you got something coming too. That's why when Cain killed his brother, what's the first thing he said? I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Yeah. Especially if you killed him. You know, which you did. And that's almost assuredly like you killing your brother. Because if he did something that warranted death, Most High, again, go back to the beginning. Don't offend the Most High's sovereign righteousness. He has to act. He has to bring wrath. Because that is a direct violation and it's in contrary to his laws and his love. So he got to deal with you. Now, if he did something to bring forth death, Most High forbid, Most High gonna do it. He got to do it. But in the yin yang and also being, you know, Most High always talk about just weights and equal balances. You got to get a little something too. More importantly, I see King. More importantly, it shows love when you admonish a brother and rebuke a brother and help a brother or sister, you know, or sister. I know I use brother a lot, but just like in certain parts of the scripture where it talks about man, you know, it's referring to women and a man. You know, that's all what this thing really boils down to. I mean, a lot of the other stuff that we're gonna cover, you know, every Wednesday in different classes, it all boils down to that love, man. And I know a lot of times we get sick of hearing the Christians talk about it. You know, everything is love, 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 and we want them to see more of the law. The law is love. Again, like I said, they there. They just not all the way. They there. And there are a lot of things that you know, we're there. We're just not all the way. So it's got to be just weights and balances. We gotta be equal in that. Go ahead, King. I seen you. I just wanted to get that out.
What you're gonna say, you know, when it comes to open rebuke, it says open rebuke is better than
Secret love, absolutely.
And when we deal with our brother and sister in that fashion, we have to come in a spirit of meekness first.
Come.
You know what I'm saying? Depending on the situation, of course. But you come with the spirit of meekness and with the hopes that you're going to bring that brother or sister in a spirit of repentance. All right? That's why even David said himself, let the righteous smite me. Why? Because he understood that, like the brother Ahrayah was saying, you may not be physically dead if you break the Most High's commandments, but it's something called a separation from the Most High in spirit. That's why David was like, look, he said, what's that, Psalm 51, let that righteous spirit, paraphrasing, let that righteous spirit depart from you. Because the Most High can take that righteous spirit from you the next day. You don't even know, you don't even care about being Israel no more. You walk around just like everybody else, celebrating Christmas, Easter, and popping on firecrackers for the 4th of July.
It says, cast me not away from thy presence and take not thy Holy Spirit from me. That's like one of my favorite Psalm 51. I know it by heart because it's that and the prayer of Manasseh is, everybody's got their own opinion, I'm assuming, but for me, those two, when you really screw up, those are the two right there. You know, that's like the ultimate, like, I'm lower than the dirt type thing. And please don't kill me right now. That's a yeah, man, yeah. So that's why I know why it said that, because that's like one of my favorite Psalms. You know, no matter what happens in my life, when my spirit is like that and I really feel like, man, I did some David with Bathsheba stuff type level crime, I jump down and get on those two. But yeah, so you definitely got to rebuke your brother. And see, the Most High just don't throw you out there in the game without knowing how to shoot the baskets. He gives you steps on how you're supposed to do it. Like the brother, because I said you got to first come in meekness, and then it shows you the other ways, the other steps in order to bring that brother to the fold, bring him back into the light of the Most High, man. Because it says what? Most High ain't got no pleasure in people dying, man. But he has to, because that's his essence. It's righteousness. It's fairness. And he makes the laws. He makes the rules. So, where we stopping at? Where we stopping at?
What's that?
Where we stop? Yeah, where we stopping at?
I don't know. Depends on you. I take 2 hour class, hour and a half. My thing is hour and a half, 2 hours. That's the most for me.
Yeah, I think we passed that, didn't we? Did we pass that?
Just about.
Just about. All right. So let's just get a couple more verses and then we can close it out, man. Yeah, we can close it out. And we could probably just talk about me. All right, maybe not. All right. So let's move on. So now we're still in Leviticus chapter 19, and we're in the 18th verse. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Look, in a perfect world, in perfect society, perfect community, there would be no need for that word to even exist. Unfortunately, that's not where we at. So somewhere, sometime, somehow, somebody going to do something that's going to probably cause them to get mashed out. It's just a fact. Now, who is it a fact for? Is it a fact for those walking in darkness or those walking in light?
Walking in light.
It is a fact. But the avenging part, why did the Most High put that in there? I mean, other than having the foresight to see that we may have to kick somebody's tail who might be one of our people anyway. Other than that. Yeah, you first.
I mean,
and then I'll go to you, sis.
Because as we read before, there's no respect of persons, right?
Right?
At the same time, whether you're in righteousness or in darkness, people are susceptible to their own emotions and go after another person's blood for a perceived wrongdoing that was done unto them. So whether it be righteous or not, there are people that are going to go out there and just look to hurt somebody just either for personal reasons or for righteousness.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
I also think that the Most High already said that He will avenge. He says you don't. So with that being said, it's hard because if somebody hurt my children or do something, you're gonna wanna do something back to them. You know what I mean? And then also too, there's a time for things to be done. Like you can't wait a week and then want to avenge something or want to do something to somebody else. If somebody does something to you or they're in your household and they're trying to rob you, you got to take care of that right then and there. You can't wait and then do it. Oh, I found the person. He right around the corner. Let's go get him. You can't do. So I think, like I said in the first part, the Most High avenges. He's the one that has the power to do all of that. And in the second part, when you avenge, that means you wait over time and it's premeditated. And right, so you have hate in your heart. So it's like, again, like my daughter stated, it's a circle. It's like you're gonna go, you breaking one law, you breaking another law, you breaking that one. It's like you trickling. It's trickling. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. No, it does. It does. It does. Both of those are great answers. But yeah, to add to that, to add to both of those answers, you got to remember something. This is the beginning of the relative beginning of our people becoming a nation. All right, when these things were applying in the beginning. It's written in the law, "Thou shalt not avenge." So that tells you a couple of things. It tells you, one, that was already being done. People were already avenging. And the reason why that's a bad thing, why the Most High says in the law, "Thou shalt not avenge," and he also tells us, like you said, sis, that vengeance is mine. Who's righteous enough to do that? Am I righteous enough to avenge something that you might have done me wrong? Because for me to do that, then that's what makes that thing that Yahushua did with the woman and the stones, that's what makes that relevant. Their own heart condemned them. Because how are you guys going to avenge what she did when you guys are unrighteous? So we technically are not supposed to do that because we don't have the wherewithal to be righteous enough to not only avenge, but to give the correct vengeance. Somebody ran over my toe, I'm not going to chop their head off. That's not the correct vengeance for that.
The punishment doesn't fit the crime.
It doesn't, exactly. I'm not equipped righteously to do that. That's why everything was supposed to be brought before the Most High, before the priest. And then, those things. But see, that's why I see you, King. That's why the law, what do you call it? In dealing with the sacrifices, that's why those laws started to become perverted. And the Most High started getting upset with cats like, "Yo, man, I don't know how long I could deal with this," because cats was like, "Yo, I'm about to go slap this dude up. Here, take these 2 turtle doves, take this goat, this heifer, ram, or whatever, because I'm about to go mash money out and bring it to the priest." You know what I mean? You can't do that. You can't do that. But cats was doing that, and thereby perverting what the law was intended to do. You know what I'm saying? So, Most High, we're not equipped. To be honest, we're not equipped to rightfully avenge. That's one. Another reason is, last I checked, I didn't create you. You didn't create him. He didn't create you. If the avenge is, or if the punishment is death, the Most High even gave laws on how that's supposed to happen, and under what circumstances and conditions that can only happen. So there's a lot that goes into that. That's not an easy law. And it's very important because it's put here. Go ahead, King. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I'm going to finish in a minute.
in Numbers 25, Phineas there was a circumstance where I want to know if that was righteous. Phineas had killed his Simeonite brother because they were committing idolatry. Now, would be considered a circumstance where it would be allowed?
Absolutely. Here's why. What's one of the things that the Most High would destroy us for? idolatry come in many, many different forms. There are roughly 614 laws. Roughly. The 10, out of the 10 that are focused on at any one point, what's one of the top ones?
Thou shalt not commit idolatry or
That's like, let me give you an example. That's like the Most High getting us out of here. And we go back and we go, well, you know, he cleans us up and he puts us back here. And we're in the kingdom now. The kingdom. And it's a beautiful thing. And we got everything we wanted. And it's everything that Yahweh Shah said it was going to be. And one day, we see one of our brethren with a golden calf in his house. Now we know that, you know, for the sake of argument, we'll just say, if the Most High got wind of this, that could literally put us back into this captivity. What are we gonna do to that dude?
take them out.
Now I know a lot of people will say, "Yo, that's not right. That's not right. You're supposed to bring him before the priest, and this, that, and the third." And yeah. But carnally speaking, I have to kill him. Now, when these things happen in the scripture, I'll give you a little secret. When these things happen in the scripture, when you read about these things in the scripture, you got to ask yourself, give you a case in point, Jacob and Esau. Esau was who? In relation to his father.
His favorite.
And there you go. And the firstborn. There are laws on how the firstborn is supposed to be treated. What goes to the firstborn. The position that they hold. Yet, Jacob's mom did all the things that Leviticus just said not to do. Defrauded, lied, all these things that Leviticus said not to do. She did that so that Jacob could get the blessing. Here's the secret. I don't know if it works for everything in the Bible, but from what I've seen, when somebody does something you think is heinous and they're a righteous person, ask yourself the question, did they ever get in trouble for it? Simple as that. We know the Most High don't like sin. And we know that something will happen. I'm not saying he'll kill you, but something will happen that he has to correct you. But if you do something that clearly goes against the Most High's law, and he didn't do nothing to you, in the case of Jacob and his mom, he didn't punish him, he didn't punish her. That begs the question, was it an unrighteous act? You know you don't tolerate unrighteousness.
So it's just like our level of understanding about what you said.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm getting at. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
I also wanted to add, as far as like the avenging thing, is that anything in the lines of an eye for an eye?
Well, you got to remember too, the Most High, when the Most High gave these laws out, it's just like anything else. Your understanding changes. The law doesn't change, but your understanding of what's written changes. Now, all throughout, when the Most High ever wanted to do anything, he's got he avenged by either sending someone, or letting something happen. He never told us to do that to each other. Because you technically don't have the right to do that because, you know, you can't possibly be righteous enough to clearly understand what was done to you, the reason it was done, and the laws in which you can use to avenge that person righteously. It's just impossible for you to do. At least to me it is.
See, that's why she says, with righteous counsel you can make war.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because before you go in that route where you have to take another man's life, you have to have, you have to go before judges. They have to see whether or not it's worthy for that matter. When the vengeance aspect comes into place, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but that was done under the magistrates of righteous counsel, princes, judges, in order for that to take place. Now you're trying to defend yourself, that's something totally different.
Right.
But as far as you having, that's why the verse before that says open rebuke. Yes, rebuke your brother so that you don't have ill will towards him. Because if you see your brother, one day you might do business with him, and the scales might be just and wrong, he ain't fixing right, and then the brother overcharged me. Next thing you know, his ox in a ditch, and you see it, and you walk right past him, and you laughing at him. By law, you're supposed to go help your brother. But you're just going to let his ox stay in the ditch. Now his ox died, guess what? You can't feed his family. And all you have to do is give him a hand. Right?
And the punishment you gave them for the crime.
Yeah, we're going to stay on this. I think I'm going to end here. We're going to stay on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it all boils down to, like how they'll say, well, hey, such and such, and you'll come in with, but they'll be like, man, who are you? What gives you the right to say? It all boils down to that. We're supposed to be a nation of kings and priests, and everything that the Most High wrote in this living word was to not only guide us, but it was also to get us thinking in a certain direction. Now, I can't possibly, if I pray to the Most High, can I possibly avenge you better than the Most High can if you did something wrong to me?
No.
I can't possibly.
And in righteousness.
And the Most High not going to take a chance on you not being righteous and avenging a brother not in righteousness. He's not going to take that chance. He's not going to take that chance.
Can I say something to it,
let me just finish one thing.
Situations where a person's passion, like someone takes your child in this society, we know that, this is set up where they have common law, the color of the law, to put this person in prison. But you take that person, like someone take Lord forbid, take the child out, you got the opportunity. You take them out. Boom. Now, in the eyes of the Most High, that you might not receive judgment for that. But in this society, you still got to answer for that. You know what I'm saying? It's still considered a crime. You know what I'm saying? So in the process of you losing a son, a husband now, or a wife now loses a husband. A father now, the children now loses a father. That's why in situations like that, we have to, it's hard, it's very extremely hard, but we have to leave situations like that in the hands of the Most High and let Him deal with the judgment aspect. Because now you got family members at home that need you still, but you can't be there to give them that proper strengthening or to be that strong man so the adversaries can come in. And now you got to go sit in prison time. You get what I'm saying?
That's why the king always went to the priest to find out from the Most High if he should make war. Because only the Most High is righteous enough to really make that call. You know what I'm saying? There's so many levels to that, man. When you start talking about avenging, And remember, the scriptures tell you, man, that issues of life and death are with the Most High, man. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of instances like the brother Kazak brought out where you got to seek wise counsel. And even in that it can be perverted. Even in that it can be perverted, because it ties in again. If you go to respecting the persons, respecting the rich man, there's so many different levels to that. But that's why the scripture says again, it says, thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. And the grudge is the same thing as ill will, but it's like perpetual, like just ongoing. And you really got to think about just what that's saying. Thou shalt not grudge, thou shalt not bear any grudge against the children of thy people. We're talking about going on and on and on, long standing. Oh, this nigga stole a quarter from me 30 years ago. Number one, is tiring. To do that. And number two, the intent is super wicked, because you have to keep that in your mind. You have to keep up that level of intensity for that to stay in your mind.
Like a potter just holding that.
Yeah.
In your hands too.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, you got to keep doing that. You got to keep that up. So that the evil one got to constantly be in your ear in order for you to do that. Go ahead, King.
Yeah, I know you want to close out. Do you remember that
No, I was
situation
going to say something else, but go ahead.
with that cop in Los Angeles? It was a brother, and he was hiding out in the woods, and they had the SWAT and all them cats that came in, they had killed him in a blaze of glory. You remember?
I think I remember something like that.
You remember?
Vaguely remember that.
Okay, you look up, I forgot his name, but one, he was military. One.
Yeah, I remember the dude you're talking about now.
He was military.
Yeah.
Two, he was a good cop. He went up against bad cops and dropped dime on them, but they was never prosecuted. But by him doing that, he got ostracized. He lost his job with the police department. The same police officers started threatening his life. You get what I'm saying? They started threatening his life. He took it upon himself when a brother in Los Angeles got killed. He took it upon himself to go and kill another police officer. But the thing in his mind was he was defending his country from corrupt personnel or corrupt individuals. You get what I'm saying?
Con.
That's how he fought. He thought he was doing the right thing based on how he was trained as a military in the military. He thought he was doing the right thing by standing up against corrupt cops that was putting Jake's lives in the gutter and putting them in the penal system and killing them. He got reprimanded for that and saw another brother get killed by the police. He couldn't take it. And his defense was he was defending. He was doing what he was told to do by the government. But I just wanted to bring that out. Like, you see what I'm saying? How we think that vengeance, that's up to the Most High.
But what if he wasn't in his right mind, number one? And number two, is he looked at as a martyr in certain people's eyes? And what's the difference? What is that, like, as far as a martyr? And again, in his mind, was he in his right mental capacity or state of mind to even think or be coherent in to do the right thing? And maybe to him that was the right thing. So who, again, the question does bring out, like, who are we to say we're going to avenge anyone? But in our state of mind, is there some type of not crime of passion, what's the word? Insanity.
Right.
I guess.
He answered that better now because he was in the military. So, but I would say that unless your mind is not engulfed in this word, then obviously You know what I'm saying? That's why it says lean out into that own understanding. But trust in the word of the Most High. You know, but in his mind, that brother, his defense was he was doing right by his country. He knew that these cops was corrupt, they were wicked, and he took it upon himself to institute justice.
So he did his own law.
Right.
Well, I mean, everybody, he had an innate sense of right and wrong. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just evident right off top. He was a little misguided, but almost everybody on this planet knows right from wrong. They may not understand why they know it. They may have forgotten why they know it. They might not give credence or credit to why they know it. It all comes from this Bible. So he felt like he was doing the right thing because the way that you're trained, they'll use the laws in the Bible, but it'll only apply to them. And in other words, they take the place of the Most High. So the honor, the respect, the love, the loyalty, all these things that the Most High talks about that he should get, which he deserves, they take that place. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. They become the gods. And so, by the time they're finished with you, you're like a slave that you're like the house Negro. That like Malcolm X said in the movie, it was like, if the master say, I'm sick, we sick, boss? That's exactly how they train you. That's exactly how they train you. So all the good things that he's probably grown up as a child, maybe he went to church, maybe his mom read the Bible to him, whatever the case may be, he knew about the Most High, he knew about the laws and right and wrong, but he applied it to the country. You know, being a patriot or whatever the case, whatever you want to call it. And so when they started going against what he knew to be the right thing according to the way they trained him and according to the things that he's probably known all his life, right and wrong, it angered him. Because now he felt like you guys are disobeying the laws of a beautiful system of country government, whatever the case may be. And so he did what he did. But that's where, like the brother Kazak said, he leaned on his own understanding. And vengeance was the Most High. You don't think the Most High would have took care of that? There's two things I always say about the Most High, and nobody can prove me wrong. There's two things that we know for a fact. One, two. First one is, he either allows it or he causes it. That's it. You break it down into that, add anything you want from the scriptures. The Most High either allows it or he causes it. Or sometimes both. So everything is in his hands. Maybe even the steps that brother took. And I say maybe because we, like you said, we don't know what his mind state was at the time. But the Most High could have put that in his mind to do that. I mean, we could sit here all night and think about why the Most High does what he does and how he works it out, and your brain would turn to mush, before you figured it out. You'd be sitting on the side of the road eating dead cats or whatever. You just can't. You just can't. The most important question I've always asked myself every time I get into some crazy stuff, and to bring myself back, I'd be like, well, how can that help me? How can that help my salvation? You know what I mean? I mean, don't get me wrong. Everything like the scripture says, everything is written for our learning. But there are a lot of things in here, in this word, that right now at the level that I'm at, I'm like, man, if it's not, going to help my salvation, I don't want to know what kind of sandals Paul had on. I don't care. I mean, anybody out in the street want to walk around with the John the Baptist collection, whatever you want to do, that's your thing. I can't get into that. If it's not going to help my salvation or help the salvation of my people, yeah, it might be nice to know, but if it ain't going to help me, man, all right, it is what it is. What's up, King?
But because concerning that army God, isn't this scripture apt? It says, Proverbs 14:12. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Right, and that's exactly what happened to him.
What's that, Proverbs
14:12. 14:12. Yeah, that's what happened to him. See, our goal, other than making it to the kingdom, is to try our best to offend the Most High as least as possible. The wages of sin is death. Sin is transgression of the law. Keep this the right way, we're in good standing. What Yahushua was trying to show us when he came down is that you can't keep this law. And here's where the churches go crazy. Here's where they mix it up. They're saying, because of Christ, or the Christ, or Yahushua, you no longer have to keep the law. All you have to do is look at Christ. What they don't get is the reason Yahushua said that. The reason why he said, I am the truth, the way, and the light. No man cometh unto the Father except through me. He was basically trying to show you, you see these laws? See these laws? I'm not going to say don't keep them, but I'm going to show you how to keep them without worrying about keeping them. I already kept them. That's why he said, take my yoke upon you. I already kept them. I did the no adultery. I did the no lying. I did the no stealing. I did the no avenging. I did the all that other stuff. I did all of these things. I did it perfectly. I did it perfectly. So guess what? If you follow me, you no longer have to look here. That's where the churches are getting it mixed up. They're saying you don't have to keep the law. No. All you have to do is look at Christ. Yeah. Christ said, I didn't come to destroy the law. If you look at the Christ, and you follow exactly the things he told you to follow, the way he walked, you step footprint for footprint, you know you keeping this law. You ain't got to worry about it. Can't nobody catch you out there. That's what he was talking about. So what we got to try to do is offend the Most High as least as possible. And all these laws that we were going over in Leviticus 19, these things were super, super important, because you'll see them all throughout what they call the Old and what they call the New Testament. You'll see all these things throughout. And again, it's about, first and foremost, loving the Most High by not breaking his laws, and then by showing them, and then by showing love to your brother. Because what you gonna give the Most High? Most High said the world is mine. If I was hungry, would I tell you? So again, I reiterate when Yahushua said, "Look, if you how can you love me, who you've never seen, but hate your brother who you see every day?" It's super important that that's what these laws are being written for. So it taught us how to not offend the Most High and to love him by showing how we love him and loving each other. because that's what he want to see.
And that's where I know I hear it from you guys all the time. Love is an action.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. You know, I could say I love you, but if I'm sleeping with your wife, do I really love you? You know, I mean, listen, we're all sinners, man. We've all done some horrible, horrible things to the Most High. But just like he talks about in the scripture, man, his grace is renewed every day. Every day you wake up, you're allowed to wake up, man. That's a new shot. That's a new shot that you get, man, to do it. Because there are millions that didn't get that. Where theirs ran out. That's it. It ran out. So, we got to remember to just keep these laws, man. And they're for a reason. You know, they'll help us not only in our daily personal walk, but they'll help us as a nation. It'll teach us to get closer to the Most High, how to do it, and to keep the reasons that we should do it fresh in our minds. Most High willing, next Wednesday, we're going to continue.